On March 27, 1977, at just before 5:07 p.m., the Tenerife airport disaster took place. The catastrophic accident at Los Rodeos still holds the dubious distinction of having the highest number of fatalities, excluding those on the ground, of any single incident in aviation history, despite the tremendous loss of life caused by the terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers in 2001. Two Boeing 747s, operated by Pan American World Airways and KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, were involved in the catastrophe at Tenerife Airport. The two aeroplanes found themselves taxiing along it in opposing directions, on a collision track, in 1977 when Los Rodeos Airport only had one runway. The destination of both aircraft was Las Palmas on the island of Gran Canaria. The events that would ultimately cause the disaster didn't start until they were close to the Canary Islands. On the day of the tragedy, a little terrorist device detonated at the Las Palmas Airport terminal building at 1:15 p.m. There were a few injuries but no fatalities because there had been a warning. A second device was revealed and responsibility was asserted over the phone. The only option left to the airport administration was to temporarily close the airport. Both the Pan Am and the KLM aircraft received instructions to divert to Los Rodeos, the closest alternate airport. There were also at least 3 additional significant, lengthy aircraft headed that way. The Los Rodeos airport was not prepared to handle so many big planes. It just had one runway, plus a primary taxiway that ran parallel to it, as was previously described. This major taxiway was joined by a number of smaller ones. Due to the need to park so many huge aircraft on the main taxiway, aircraft that were about to take off had to taxi into position utilizing the actual runway. The KLM flight's captain made the time-saving decision to refuel while on the ground. Because of this choice, the plane was fully fueled when the Tenerife airport accident struck, making the firestorm that followed all the worse. The KLM airliner was eventually given the all-clear by the control tower and instructed to backtaxi to the end of the single runway before doing a 180-degree turn once word arrived that Las Palmas Airport had been reopened. Although the crew of the aircraft was instructed to acknowledge this clearance, they did not do so until the aircraft was in takeoff position because they were doing their pre-flight inspection. Low clouds had crept in, and a fog had formed, reducing visibility to little over 1,000 feet. The Pan Am flight was subsequently given instructions to backtaxi along the same runway, quit it at the third exit, and then proceed onto the main taxiway. When the captain asked for the exit number to be repeated, he was given first, second, third, sir. A third one? The crew used an airport map to locate the necessary exit as the aircraft started its slow taxi. Keep in mind that it was already misty. It appears that the staff was unable to locate exit 3 properly. The fact that the impending collision ultimately occurred close to the 4th exit illustrates this. Around this time, there seems to have been a communication breakdown between the planes and the control tower. The KLM flight's captain gave his co-pilot instructions to indicate that they were prepared for takeoff and to ask for permission. The aircraft's departure route and post-takeoff procedures were then given in a clearance from the control tower. The control tower responded okay when the co-pilot said, "We're now at takeoff." It seems that the flight crew intended to say that takeoff was already starting, but the controller misinterpreted it as takeoff position with no final clearance. "Stand by for takeoff, I'll phone you," he continued. The worst possible coincidence of all happened at that time in the sequence of events that led to the disaster at Tenerife Airport. The Pan Am flight's simultaneous radio report that they had not finished taxiing and were still on the runway resulted in radio interference, which prevented the KLM captain from hearing the control tower's final few words. Additionally lost was the vital information about the whereabouts of the Pan Am flight. Both of these signals could have prevented the KLM flight from taking off if they had been heeded. The aircraft could not see one another or be seen from the control tower due to the fog. Additionally, ground radar was not present at Los Rodeos Airport. When the Pan Am flight was clear of the runway, the tower requested a report. "Okay, we'll report when we're clear," the ship's captain retorted. The KLM flight's flight engineer was concerned about the other aircraft's situation after learning this. The KLM captain, however, kept moving down the runway as though he had already received permission to take off. The Tenerife airport accident resulted in a terrible death toll. All 234 passengers and 14 staff members died on the KLM flight. The Pan Am flight's 326 passengers and 9 staff members perished, mostly as a result of the spilled fuel igniting and exploding. On this flight, 56 passengers and 5 crew members were alive. Shrapnel from the 747's engines, which were still running after the collision, killed some survivors who were outside on the runway. Firefighters originally went to the KLM plane under the impression that there was just one plane involved because of the dense fog. Ironically, this plane was the only one to crash. A team of 70 investigators conducted a thorough examination into what caused the Tenerife airport disaster. They came to the following conclusions about why such a calamity was permitted to occur. 1. Without the required authorization, the KLM flight began its takeoff. 2. The Pan Am aircraft ignored the third exit that it was instructed to utilize and continued toward exit 4. 3. The miscommunication of 2 important radio communications as a result of cross-interference caused by their simultaneous broadcast at the exact same time. 4. Using unconventional responses, like OK. 5. The airport is being compelled to accept many huge planes, far more than it can handle. The Tenerife airport disaster caused changes to airport operations that were felt all around the world. Aviation authorities now insisted on the use of regular language in radio communications rather than abbreviations like OK. The term takeoff was not to be used until the scheduled takeoff time. Control towers and air crews should use the term departure instead. This is one of the disasters that world won't forget. But such disasters continue to happen. One of such tragedy is Love Canal disaster, which took life of around 700, including children. Also know why just a bread took life of a man. Let us know in comments what you think about this tragedy. And don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thank you.